Hey, what is going on, guys? I'm Mario, and welcome to class 2. All right, so in this video, actually, this is going to be only audio. I would like to talk about some challenges, answer some questions, give you some tips on how maybe progress the fastest and how to take on of all the content here and how to take actually the most out of it so that by the end you have a solid understanding of everything what is happening here. So yeah, let's now talk about what class 2 actually is. So this is actually going to be our most important class, simply meaning that whatever we do after class 2 is going to have a foundation right here. So how we manipulate edges, how we manipulate support loops, how we redirect edges, how we manipulate highlights, everything is going to have its foundation right here. So if you find yourself stuck in the future, if any of the classes, just come back right here and check the topics on edge redirection, edge flow, and so on. So this is our biggest topic. Also, there's a topic on how to understand topology. This is also something that I would put a very big emphasis on. So my biggest tip that I can give you right now is do not skip class 2. And this kind of goes hand to hand to what I want to talk about next, and that is challenges. And I really don't want to be harsh here, but based on some questions and examples that I've seen or received, I just think that it's important thing to talk about because I had the same thing, and this is also my experience, and also experience with working with other students, let's say. So the challenges are time, patience, and practice. And the biggest challenge of them all, I would say, is just the experience. So gathering that experience, gathering visual library of how topology needs to look like. So this, I would say, it's the biggest challenge of them all, especially if you're a beginner. So let me just break down here what I mean by that. So let's say an example that class 1, we have a modeling pen and tablet. And let's say that you don't want to follow a tutorial and you just see the tablet and you think that you can recreate it on your own. So you start creating it and you hit a wall. And you're not sure how to solve a specific situation, and you see some pinching, you see some irregularities, you cannot put a specific detail in, it doesn't look quite right. So you have an option now to actually check the video, and even if not check the video, there is a project files that you can open and just check the mesh and see, all right, so this is how that's solved, so let me do it again. So now you can either start from the beginning or just backtrack and just solve it and be on your way. So it's just solution is right there, and you can experience, let's say, a minor setback in your workflow. And there is now the second example where you're, let's say, creating something that is quite different. So it's not what it's shown in the tutorial. It's not that same tablet, but maybe it's a different tablet. And then you find yourself in a situation where you hit a wall, but this time there is not actual solution presented. So there is no video tutorial explaining to you how to do a specific part. There is no project file so that you can actually examine the project file, that you can see how the mesh is solved. And so what happens is maybe you go on forum, maybe you go on YouTube, check one video, check second video, go on Discord, ask some questions, maybe you get a vague answer, try again. And you just get stuck in this constant loop where you feel that you're struggling, you get frustrated, and then you simply give up on this tablet and maybe try to do something else, and you're stuck again in the same loop, well, let's say with another example. So this is what I mean when I mention time, patience, and practice, because patience here plays a big role. Just going through this crappy content. So I know it's going to be boring, and this is probably not something that you're actually maybe even interested in modeling in, but it's really necessary for that experience. So you need to build experience, and it just matters how you build that experience. If you build it on your own early on as a beginner, so if I go on a Pinterest and I found something I like, let's model this, the chances are that if I'm a beginner, I'm going to struggle a lot to recreate that shape, and I'm going to pick up a lot of bad habits in my modeling skill that I'm going to need to fix later anyway. So instead of doing that, what I would suggest from the start, just try and build that experience properly. So just simply by being patient and having enough time to practice a lot. So what I mean by that is that here we have technically 5 classes, and six class is just feedback. But if you organize it, let's say in 5 weeks. So week number one of that we focus only on creating a pen and a tablet. So if in 1 day, or even in 2 days, even in 3 days, if I created this pen and tablet and I finally finished it, that means that I still have technically 4 days left within that week so that I can do it again. And repetition is really important. So meaning that if you finish this tablet within the first 3 days, and let's say we have a 5-week program here, I would suggest doing it one more time. And if you have time, doing it 2 more times, because each time you will see that not just your skill will improve, but that you will see a lot of things that maybe you haven't noticed previously. Same thing now with the class 2. We have here very simple practice examples, and if you do it in 1 day, the next day you can do it again. Try to do it with video tutorial, then without video tutorial. So if you hit a wall, you can just refer to the video or refer to the mesh, see how it's solved, and then continue on. Same thing again with the class 3. 1 week for whatever is there. So for now we have earphone and camera. In the future there might be more, or might be replaced with something else. But if you're, let's say, done with the camera in 1 day and earphone in another, you still have technically 5 days left. So each day repeat one after the other. So even later down the line. So I'm saying this because even in my case, this is actually, like I mentioned that in weapon, when we modeling a weapon, that was not the first weapon that I did. I did maybe 4 or 5 examples and then decided, hey, this is maybe cool, I want to show this one. And even if it's client work, if you work on a concept, if you do a robot, you'll probably do 2, 3, 4 robots, and then client will decide, hey, I like this one, let's move from this one on. So it's not going to be always, hey, I'm now done this camera once and let's move on to something else. It's really that repetition, it's what's important, because that is what's going to build that experience, and also visual library of how specific edge flows need to go, because each time you will find yourself in different situations where edge flows will be different, and also they will act different. So you will just find that, okay, so let's now solve it this way. Let's now see this situation. That's one side of it. And the other side of it is that it's already familiar. So the shape is familiar, the topology is familiar, everything you know, you just need to just drill it out, and you will see how fast that goes. So if you categorize that within this, let's say 5 weeks, you will see that by the end you will have a lot to show. All right, so one other thing that I would like to talk about is class 6, which I would also say that it's pretty important, simply because, let's say, I want to share here my experience, because when I was starting, it was kind of difficult, because when you're learning modeling, even it can be hard at the beginning, but it's very, very rewarding in the end, because you can then manipulate shapes fast, and you can really get some cool looking shapes. And not just that it's rewarding in terms of shapes, even if you work in ZBrush with NURBS, with Moai or whatever, you still have that understanding how things work, and you will always keep that in back of your mind. Okay, I need to be careful here in case of a retopology, or if I want to create a game asset, I need to think about this. So you will always have that in back of your mind. So what it's really important here is that you can actually ask. So you actually never know, is your topology correct as a beginner? So you might assume that you did something correct. And I'm, again, talking this from my own personal experience, and also with working with, let's say, other students' project files, where like I would receive a project file that technically looks correct, topology maybe is correct, but there was a lot of other hidden things like double geometry, hidden extrusion within inside normals flipped, or and there was just some other things that maybe as something that typically you on your own you would notice, but maybe somebody, if you put it through the production, somebody else would notice. So that's why you have this class 6 where you can share your project files and then you can go through those project files together, and so that everybody can learn from each other's mistakes. So everybody makes mistakes, and that's just natural progression, but that's also how we learn and again build that experience. So class 6 is going to be reserved for that. Also very important class. So if you wish, you can always share your project files. Then I'm going to review that, and yeah, then I'm going to see what went wrong and how we can fix that as well. So again, final tip about this classes and assignments. So if you wish to challenge yourself beyond tutorials, we have also assignments section where you can try and tackle the assignments, where we do not have a video tutorial available, but we do have mesh available. So again, if you see a shape, just try and recreate that shape simply by looking at it without, let's say, checking the mesh. And if you hit a wall, then you can check a mesh. Then you can see, okay, this is solved maybe differently. And then again, you need to maybe do a small, let's say, step back, fix specific things, and then you can continue. And that is how you progress. So that's what I meant. Patience is going to be very essential key. So being patient really pays off in the long run. So do not rush. That is something that I would say as a biggest tip of it all. Just do not rush, do not skip tutorials, because they are important in a way. They are not that important like later on, because they are just holding the information. The real work needs to come from you, and how you actually approach that work and how you actually want to build your experience. That is again totally up to you. I just want to share the tips and share the most fastest way. And again, the fastest way is just through building experience, but again, building experience proper way. If you're building up a bad habits in the beginning, that still means that you still need to go backtrack, do a couple of steps back, learn the proper topology, and then redo everything again. And that might be time consuming. So with this, I would just like to then close this section right here, and also say that I'm available on Discord if you need anything. So if you have any questions, share project files, basically anything, just share it over there, and then we'll talk about it in one of the videos. So thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you next time.